Hey everyone, Dumont Owen here. It's Wednesday, my favorite day of the week because I get to talk to you. I get to come to you with my latest discoveries and what's hot and what's not on LinkedIn. And today we're really returning to what we're returning to my roots, but we're also returning to the very basis upon which this whole LinkedIn framework is built, and that's your personal brand. Last week we talked a lot about the social selling index and how that can guide you as you are building your network and your professional contacts on LinkedIn, how you can truly engage with people and build relationships. So today we're looking at that very first pillar, and that's personal branding, and that's your professional brand, and that's where we are going to be, for the rest of this month. We're going to be talking about your brand, how to communicate it, and how to really make it work for you and attract the people that you most want to deal with. So before we get started, I want to look over here and see if, can everyone hear me? If you can hear me, drop it in the chat. Okay. All right. Well, it looks like then you can hear and I can hear, so we've all got our ears on. And without ado, I am going to go and start the slideshow for you. Whoops, hold on a second. I have to share my screen first. Okay. So now let's get this show on the road. All right, so you should be seeing a slide right now that says stand out, build an irresistible personal brand in 3 steps. And that's what we're talking about today. So as you're thinking about this, I want you to think in terms of, how important is it to you that you know a brand before you buy? And what makes the difference there? Okay, so when we think about that, what makes a brand, what makes it so important to know a brand before you buy, or is it important to know? Well, recently there was a survey on this, and the way it turned out, a full almost 80%, no, a full almost 70% of people do use or do want to be familiar with the brand before they buy. And this is extremely important when we're talking about our roles as coaches or consultants, because most of us operate in terms, we may have one-off kinds of things that we offer, but we offer packages and services that typically carry a little higher price than, say, plopping down money for a book. So it's really important that people get to know our brand, which raises the question of, well, how do we know our brand, and how do we measure that, and what does it comprise of? So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about building trust and awareness into your brand so that people know who you are, they know what you stand for, and they really want to talk to you. Okay. All right, so this is what we're going to go through today. We're going to talk about personal branding in general, what it is. We're going to talk about the 3 steps you need to take to build a really clear, irresistible personal brand. And then I'm going to give you a few action items that will get you a little further in this. So today you should walk away with 3 steps that you can use to build your personal brand. Okay, so what is a brand? Well, your brand is actually three different things. But we describe it as a unique promise of value. Now, some of you may be familiar with the term unique value proposition. It's the same thing. It's just easier to talk about this in terms of a unique promise of value. So unique, it's unique because it differentiates you from everyone else who is playing in the same sandbox, okay? Everyone else who offers the same types of services, and it's in the same industry that you are. So that's one. It has to promote how you are different from everyone else. Two, it's a promise, and it's a promise because it's absolutely authentic. One of the real major criterion for branding is that it's authentic. It's authentic to you. And if it's not authentic, people will see through it. You have to be the same in all ways, in all places that you appear. So you want that authenticity in your brand. And finally, value. And value has everything to do with relevance. Something isn't of value unless it's relevant to the challenges and problems experienced by your target audience. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about a brand. We're talking about unique, how you are different from your competitors, promise that something that's a brand is really authentic to you. It's the same everywhere you appear. And finally, value in terms of relevance to your target audience. Okay, let's take a look at some of the world's strongest brands. A lot of these most of these are probably brands that you are going to relate to. And when you look at them, I want you to think about what pops into your mind when you see one of those brands. Does Toyota mean something different to you than Mercedes-Benz? Is Apple different? How is Apple different than Samsung? Okay, so when we think about a brand, what comes to your mind when you think about that brand? Is it convenience? Is it price? Is it an experience? You could really relate to all of these and say there is some experiential aspect to each one of them, isn't there? And they each provoke some kind of emotion or feeling. If it's Disney, well, I'm from Florida, so I'm totally Disney, and I see it as just fun, and freedom and just sunshine and a day full of fun. Amazon, you may see as convenience or a one-size-fits-all kind of place where you can go and find just about anything you want. So it's really how you relate to that brand and how it pops into your mind. So what we want to look at is what people feel about your brand when you pop into their minds. Okay, so one thing I really want you to remember is that being inauthentic in your brand is actually harder than being authentic, because it's kind of like the little white lie, or maybe the little black lie, but that you keep having to remember, right? It's so much more work than telling the truth. So you can relate to it kind of in that way. So how did we get to personal branding? Because branding goes back a long ways, but personal branding is a fairly recent kind of experience or phenomenon. And it started with an article written, and I'm trying to think of what year this was. It was 1990 something, maybe 96, 97. I know because I can remember exactly where I was when I saw this article about the brand called you. I was in my doctoral program in a course about community colleges, and the guy was teaching us about branding of community colleges. So this was when it first started. This guy on the right, on your right, is William Maruto. And William Maruto was the founder. It was the founder of Reach Communications. And he was the one who really took personal branding and made it into a global phenomenon. I mean, he really he's really made this known all over the world. And I know him because he's the one who, or his program is the one that I have multiple certifications in, ending with, a master personal brand strategist and a certified digital brand strategist. So I kind of look at him as the guru, as the sage, as the person whose knee I knelt at and learned all of this. So today we're going to be talking about personal branding 3 steps in the action plan. And the first thing I want to talk to you is about the 3 steps. Now, these are the 3 steps that you will take to absolutely ensure that your brand is working for you on LinkedIn. And that's so important because LinkedIn has over 700 million people now, okay? And I think I haven't looked in the last few weeks, but it just keeps growing exponentially. So the 3 steps that you're going to take to unearth your brand are extract, and that's where we really look at your unique promise of value. That's where we look at the core elements of your brand, because the truth is that you don't create your brand. Your brand is already there, and that may be reassuring or not, but your brand is already there. You already have a brand. So to extract your brand, we're going to look at, how you regard your brand and how others regard your brand. So we are going to unearth your brand. In the second part, we're going to look at how you express your brand to your target audience. And over the next 2 weeks, we're going to get even more into that. And then finally, it's how you align your brand with everything in your brand environment. So hold on a second, because I want to go over here and check and see if any of you have any questions at this point. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I'll be answering that shortly. So I'm going to keep going. But thank you, Carol. That was a good question. So let me go back over here and hold on. Okay. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. Okay. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so let's talk a minute about the benefits of personal branding. For one thing, there's a self-understanding that comes from a personal brand, because your brand is both internal and it's also external. It's what people know about you. So it's internal in terms of that self-understanding and really understanding what the key components of your brand are. But it's also external in that your brand increases your visibility and your presence online. Now, it's also, as we said earlier, it's differentiating, because your brand is really very much about how you are different than your peers, the people who are offering the same services. Another thing that a brand does for you is it helps you control not only your image, but your messaging, the growth of your business. I mean, everything. If you know your brand, then you can really control what your image is out there in the world. Now, it also leads to wealth, and this is a pretty simple correlation, because if people know who you are, if you're well branded and you're controlling your image, then people are going to pay more for your product. Because when you think about it, we pay more for a brand than we do for a commodity. For instance, Starbucks versus the no-name coffee shop next door, we can expect that we might pay more at Starbucks because it's a brand. because it's the only place where you know you can go and get that specialty drink that you love. So we pay more for a brand. It's also about achievement, about being able to reach the goals that you want, and it's also about fulfillment, because professional fulfillment comes from aligning who you are with what you do. Okay, what are the benefits of a personal brand? And we talked about it from one aspect, but this is a little bit different. Your personal brand, remember when I said it had to be authentic? Well, your personal brand should be absolutely the same in terms of your work, your life, and how you appear in the world. So the fact that it's authentic really means that you're going to be able to stay in alignment in all those different areas. Okay, so the 3 steps. The first step is about extracting your personal brand, and there are a number of different ways to do that. And I'm going to show you those or talk about those in just a minute. But the first part is extract. And we're really looking in that first part about what's your promise? What's authentic about you? We're talking about looking internally to know your goals, your vision, your values, your purpose, your mission. All of those things are part of your brand. So we really need a way to look at those and understand them. Now, to understand that personal perspective, these are all the things that do absolutely go into our brand. So it's going to be the vision, the purpose, the values, the strengths, your passions, and also your goals, because your goals really inform your brand. Your goals make your brand clearer, and it's a way of casting your brands. Have you noticed that whenever you have a particular goal, or whenever you have a particular focus, that you tend to see that focus that tends to appear to you everywhere? For instance, if your goal is to buy a new car, and you go out and you're comparing cars, all of a sudden you see those same cars everywhere because you're focused on them. So your goals focus your personal brand. Next, what are the external perceptions of your goals? So when we're talking about your goal, we're talking about those internal perceptions of your strengths, your values, your passions, all of that. But we're also talking about external perceptions. And this is what really convinced me of the importance of personal branding. Because I come out of higher education. I was always running career development centers or career centers. And one of the things that we specialized in was assessment, helping people understand how their interests, their values, their abilities, all of those things, related to the careers they chose. So that was, I already knew how to do that when I started into personal branding. What I hadn't seen was a process for collecting external perceptions. And when we run our perceptions by others, they can either validate them, they may enrich them, they may say, oh, that isn't one of the key things I see. So getting those external perceptions really helps us in clarifying our goals and in really getting that richness, that multifaceted understanding of what our personal brand is. So I'm going to talk to you about 2 ways that you can do it. Now, one is the 360 reach. This is a survey, and this is often the way I do it with my clients, because it enables you to not only measure your internal perceptions and values and passions and all of that. But it also allows you to collect feedback from others. And the way that it does that is you first complete a survey, and then you send it out to people who know you well enough to have an impression of what your brand characteristics are. You know, what are your strengths? What do they see as your passions? What do they see as your values or your purpose? And all of those things give you feedback. And that's really great because with this kind of a survey, the feedback is anonymous. So people can feel really good about doing that, and they don't feel like they're giving away the farm. Now, does this mean that you're going to get all this feedback that's going to make you go, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was so horrible with that? No, because we're talking about your brand. We're talking about your personal brand. We're not going to focus on weaknesses. You know, that's not what this instrument is about. You know, yes, they might, you know, there might be something that they say in a comment someplace that could alert you to a discrepancy. But this is focusing on what your personal brand assets are. And that's what you really need to do. Now, is this the right way for everyone to do this? No, you know, I have clients that I don't use this survey with. And these are clients who may not know enough people who know them well enough to do this. You really need 10 to 15 responses in order to get a clear picture. They may just not feel comfortable. They may not feel that they can get 15 responses. Now, the people that you send your survey to would be anyone who knows you well enough to have an opinion. It can be your family members, your friends, your former faculty members, you know, your clients, your prospective clients, partners. It can be all of those things. Are you a member of a church? I'll bet there are some people who have opinions there. So this is, you know, really getting feedback from everyone. And why is it important to get feedback from all those different people? Well, it's like, you know, the three blind men and the elephant. You know, one says, well, elephants, you know, he's feeling the trunk and saying, oh, they're long and tubular, you know, and another one's saying, oh, they're giant like a house, you know, or another one's with the ears. So you want to get opinions from a lot of different people because they may see you in different settings and have different perspectives. At the same time, when you get feedback from all those different kinds of people, you're going to get richer data on what people see as your brand elements. It can be so much richer. William Maruto tells a story about someone that he was advising, and this was a guy who was working on his personal brand to improve his image in his workplace. And he did the 360 Reach survey, and one of the things that they were looking at when he did this survey was, why people at work didn't seem to like him, or that was his impression. You know, it was one of these situations where you walk up to the water cooler and everybody leaves, you know, or you weigh into the conversation and it just kind of drifts off, you know, and that's what he was experiencing. But in his 360 Reach, his family and friends talked about his great sense of humor, that he was just so funny. And when William asked him, well, you know, why didn't he do this at work? He said why didn't people at work respond the same way? And he said, well, that's a conscious decision. I didn't think humor really belonged in the workplace. So William convinced him to try it out. And within a matter of weeks, people were stopping by his office. People were, you know, welcoming him into the group because they were seeing that he was fun. You know, and we all want to be seen as fun by someone, don't we? So this is a way that you can get a richer perspective on not only what your brand elements are, but which brand elements you want to use in what ways? Do you want to use this, in your work world, or is it something that maybe you want to downplay and emphasize other aspects of your brand? Now, if people don't want to do this survey, and just having to have 15 responses can be enough. Some people just aren't comfortable with this process. I have a booklet that's based on this too, and it breaks out values and perceptions and passions and abilities and motivated skills, all those different elements of your brand. And you can fill that out and then sit down with a few people that you're comfortable with, 5 to 10 people, and just say, what do you see here? Do you agree with this? Do you have questions about this? Does this seem to describe me? And why or why not? And get feedback that way. And some people are a lot more comfortable, sitting down over a cup of coffee, or in this particular time, a virtual cup of coffee, and going through this. So there are different ways to do this. And, there are other ways too. I'm sure there are other instruments. I want you to understand that you're not limited to one way to do your personal brand. Okay, so the second part of your personal brand is what people think about you. That's what we've been talking about. What is your professional reputation? Do you know what people think about you? And that's about your differentiation. What makes you different? Well, I talked a little bit earlier about Starbucks. And the real thing that makes us pay more at Starbucks is that Starbucks has a very distinctive brand, and they were really magicians at this. I mean, they made Starbucks and a cup of coffee at Starbucks really an experience. So when we go to Starbucks, we may pay $4.50, or even, I haven't been to Starbucks lately, it may have gone up, for that specialty drink that you really love. Or you can go to the place next door that doesn't have that brand, and they may offer cool coffees too. I mean, there are a lot of places in Cleveland where I live that have great coffee, but they may not have that brand. Or they may have a different brand that's one that you would pay for. But generally, we pay more for brands than we pay for commodities. And what makes you different, what makes you unique, is what makes you successful. And this is one of William's, you hear this out of his mouth all the time. In fact, if you go and look him up on LinkedIn, it's in his banner. He feels that strongly about it because, here's the thing, people aren't going to buy from you because you're the best person in the world at something. If you're looking to stand out on LinkedIn, good luck standing out as the best, because there are over 700 million people there. Like I said before, there's probably someone who's better than you, not to, I can't say that for absolute sure, but I'm pretty sure there's somebody better than you. So so you don't have to be the best. You just have to be different. Okay. And it's that difference that's important, but it's not just any difference. It's the difference that appeals to your ideal clients, right? So it's not different. It's selectively different. It's the difference that they love about you. Okay, so what makes you compelling to your ideal clients? Well, that's all about relevance. That's about whether your information, whether your content, whether your brand, whether everything that you do. Oh my gosh, that's my alarm to feed my cat. I'm so sorry. I turned off my phone, but the alarm went off. We have a sick kitty cat who has to be paid at fed at certain times. So what makes your brand compelling is how relevant it is to the problems and challenges of your ideal clients. So when you're building your profile or you're putting out content, you want to make sure that it is absolutely 100% related to the problems and challenges of your ideal clients. Okay, now, those of you who were in my broadcast last week heard me talk about personal brand statements. And your personal brand statement is really about who you are, who you help, how you help them, and the results, okay? Or how you help them better than anybody else. So I could say, I help coaches and consultants build personal brands and promote them on LinkedIn, so that they have more coaches, or so that they have more of their ideal clients, or that they build a sales funnel of their ideal clients. So you want to take everything in your brand and you want to be able to put it into a funnel. So, I could do it another way. I could say, I combine my knowledge of personal branding and LinkedIn to help coaches and consultants build sales funnels of their for their ideal clients. There are all different ways I could do it, but you want to show what the results are. So you're going to take all the aspects of your brand, your vision, your purpose, your values, your passions, your goals, your personality characteristics and quirks. Being quirky can be cool. There's a woman on LinkedIn who calls herself the mean HR lady, or the evil HR lady. She's a career coach, and she's an ex-HR person who has learned how to do that so that this is her brand. So, that's kind of a quirk there. Or there's another woman who describes herself as the snarky career coach. So there's another quirk. Obviously she has kind of, a dry sense of humor. Okay, there are also your strengths and your skills, your motivated skills, the ones you really like to use, and then finally, the reputation that's out there. And what you're going to do is you're going to distill all of those in order to create that personal brand statement, that who you are, who you help, how you help them, and the results. So really, when you come right down to it, this expression, or this extraction, this brand that you're going to build is all about really what you want to be known for. It's taking all of those different elements that are part of your brand and distilling them into that brand statement of what you want to be known for. Okay, what you want to be known for and who you want to know it about you. Okay. All right. The first section that we just finished or the first stage is extract. Now in the next stage, we're talking about express. And this is going to be a lot of what we're talking about for the rest of March. How to express your personal brand. And there are some initials here that I'm going to ask you to remember. One's VCL, visibility, credibility, and likability. Now, for years and years and years, people have talked about sales as the know, like, trust cycle. People have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you. Well, this just says it in a little bit different way, and in a little bit different way, in a little bit different format, particularly for online. You need to build, visibility. That's your, that's the know. Or that's the know. You need to create the likability. That's the like, and then the credibility is trust. So know, like, trust, or visibility, credibility, and likability. It's all the same process, but it doesn't work in the same way. Online is a lot different in the way you build that than offline. Okay, and then there are 3 C's to your personal brand: clarity, consistency, and constancy. When you communicate your personal brand on LinkedIn and on any social media for that point, you want to do it clearly. You don't want your personal brand to be one thing on Facebook, another thing on Twitter, another thing on Instagram, and another thing on TikTok. Okay, you want it always to be the same brand. So you need that clarity about what you're expressing as your brand. You need consistency. In other words, when you are putting out your brand, because remember, this stage is called express. When you are putting out content, when you are doing your video, when you are reaching out to people, your brand needs to stay consistent. And what you're saying, your messaging still needs to be consistent. Okay? And then finally, it needs to be constant. You need to figure out the cadence within which you are going to, with which you are going to send out contents. Do you do it once a week? Do you do it 3 times a week? What time do you do it? And everything about that really needs to be, consistent, clear about what you are, about who you are, and then visible to the people who really need to get to know you. So remembering that about communicating is really very important. And like I said, that's what we're going to be concentrating on going forward. Okay, there are lots of ways that you can communicate your brand. So one of the things that you need to think about is when and where you want to communicate. Obviously, social media is one of those places. But what social media? Which social media? Because they all have different approaches. And I concentrate on LinkedIn, but I'm also on Facebook, not as much, but Facebook is better for some things, like this group for one thing. So which social media are you really going to concentrate on? And then there are internal communications. What's going on behind the scenes? How are you communicating with other people who are involved in this? Public speaking would be another of this. And I know a lot of you do public speaking. There's also now really coming up more and more virtual speaking, and that's one thing. If you are used to speaking, then push yourself a little bit more and get into that public speaking. You may have a book out. You may have a blog, and that's another, that has historically been one of the ways that you can get the most traffic. Volunteering, getting out there and getting known in your community. And some of these things seem so distant right now because of what we've gone through with the pandemic. But volunteering will come back, and you can certainly volunteer online. There are all kinds of opportunities. And then finally, articles and white pages. So you have all of these different ways to express your thought leadership, your content, and express and establish your expertise with your ideal clients. But one of the things that you really want to be sure of is that you're always expressing your point of view. For instance, there are people out there telling you that you should be, sending out 50 LinkedIn invitations a day. And I used to actually tell people that, a long time ago, but now, well, not even a long time ago, because that was relevant up until last year, and it's slowly been closing down because of all the automation out there, the bots and all the third-party software that people are using. And LinkedIn has seen this. And so now, in order to really stay out of LinkedIn jail, in order not to fall under suspicion as using these automations, then it's better to stick to 25 to 30, a week, and just stay at that. I'm sorry, did I say 50 to 100 a day? I'm in a week, or 200, even 200 a week. And you just can't do that for a number of reasons. One is that you could end up in LinkedIn jail. The other one is that it's all about engagement. It's all about building relationships. And I'm sorry, if you are inviting 200 people a week, how are you going to build those relationships? You know, just automatic, you know, emails that have no personalization in them are not going to do it. So it's really important that you engage in relationship building, and that comes out of your thought leadership. It also comes out of having a point of view. You know, and my point of view, as I was saying, has changed because I know that LinkedIn's algorithms reward engagement. So that's really important. Okay, branded content. Now that's even more important. When we're talking about your LinkedIn profile, we're talking about doing a branded bio first, because a branded bio is one that you write that includes all your brand elements. And I usually have my clients do a branded bio first because it's easier than writing a LinkedIn profile. And it's easier because you're writing it from the third person. You know, I could say, you know, if I do that, I would say, Dr. Dumont Owen, you know, and just go, you know, has spoken to national or international audiences, you know. So that would be, you know, that's easier to say, you know, in the third person than it is to say in the first person. Hi, I've spoken in front of, you know, national and international audiences. You know, it's just not as comfortable. So writing a branded bio can be a really great way to start it. And then you're going to translate that bio into your LinkedIn profile. Having a headshot, and we talked about this last week, having a shot that looks into the camera, that's friendly, you know, that's inviting, you know, that's so important. Having that thought leadership content, and on your profile, you know, there are all kinds of ways to attach that and to feature that with branded content and videos and podcasts, you know, blog posts. All of those different things can be featured on your profile and they can be put out there. So all of those are branded content. But the three places that, if you're just starting out, that you want to concentrate on are your banner, because it's the first thing people see, your headshot, and your headline. So be sure that you infuse your LinkedIn profile, your banner, your headshot, and your headline, and then moving on down the line, you really want to infuse it with your brand. Okay, and here's something that I want you to really think about. And I know that it's hard to get started with this if you have any hesitancy. And, you know, do video. You know, every indication is that it is continuing to snowball. So if you've never done video and you're worried about it or you're hesitant about it, you know, get Zoom if you haven't already downloaded, and do video. Just practice doing videos. You can just do ones that you can record and see, and just practice it, because there are all kinds of ways to do video, and it doesn't have to be slick anymore. You know, it doesn't have to be a professional video presentation. So do some practicing, get comfortable with it, and then start doing it in little bitty steps. You know, a 1 minute video on LinkedIn is perfect. You know, 2 minutes is the absolute max. A 1 minute, if you can get it down to 1 minute, you're golden. Okay, and then finally, you know, you're going to be building your brand in bits and bytes. You know, master one form of social media, the most important one, and then go from there. All right, that brings us to our third part of personal branding, or our third stage, and that's exude. And that's where you're going to manage your entire brand environment. Now, for most of us, our entire brand environment right at the moment is pretty much online. But if you think in non-pandemic times, our brand environment is much larger and much broader. So let's look at it from that perspective. So in your brand environment, you have your work environment, you have your mobile, your mobile environment that you stay connected with. You have your wardrobe, how you wear jewelry, how you look. You have your whole connected group. All of those things are important. So it's really important to come up with a system of your brand, of how you put yourself out there, so that your blog looks like your profile looks like, and ties into your profile, looks like your content. All of that stuff looks the same. So how are you going to do that? Well, you need to develop a brand identity system. So those are things like your colors, your fonts, your images, what textures you use, your logo and your tagline, that line that people see you can put it in your banner, you can put it in your headline, your headline, you can put it in all different places, but you really need to have one system. Now, if you don't have a logo, if you don't have fonts and colors, there are places you can go online to get those. There are places where you can develop, there are services where you can develop your own logo. Just Google them, they're out there. You can go to a site like Fiverr or Upwork and get someone to design it for you. So there are all kinds of options that at all different kinds of prices. So what color is your brand? Well, different colors have different thoughts associated and different emotions associated with them. What comes to your mind when you think of orange? What comes to your mind when you think of green? And what color you choose as your brand color, or maybe your primary and secondary brand colors, what is your brand color? It's not your favorite color necessarily. It's not your favorite color. It's the color that actually expresses your brand elements. And please write down or take a screenshot of this video. This is one that you can go to that will go through in much greater detail what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, in general, these are some of the attributes we associate with different colors. So red is about, being active, being passionate. It's a bold color. We think of passion as red. We think of energy as red. Red is my secondary color because people say I am really passionate about a lot of things that I do. Now, orange is about determination and encouragement and potency and strength, all those kinds of things. And it's really interesting because now I'm in Cleveland and we have the Cleveland Browns, and their color is orange. So, or orange, their colors are orange and brown. So here we like orange a lot, but it's not a particularly popular color in the United States, but it's a very popular color in France. So if you have a lot of clients in France, orange might say something different to them. Yellow. Now, yellow is, think of sunshiny personalities, creative, peppy, happy, a lot of energy. That's what yellow means. And green, green, you see a lot of green in terms of therapist's office, in terms of schools. You often see, rooms and what we used to call blackboards. They became rebranded in green because it's something that feels young, it's supportive, it's about rebirth and growth and youth. It's all those kinds of things. Green is a very reassuring color. And there's trust. Now, blue is my main color because it talks about reliability, wisdom, confidence, truth. and authority. Those are all things that go along with blue. There's a reason that IBM is called Big Blue. There's a reason that you see blue in terms of a lot of banking logos. You know, it really depicts trust, authority, and authenticity. Okay. And then lastly, we have purple. And I just had someone in my mastermind group the other day talk, you know, she was showing her brand and her colors, and it was purple. And I said, oh, what a royal color. And, you know, it has that magic and that spirituality to it. And she said, oh my gosh, you got it completely. And that's because that's what it conveys. Those of you who are familiar with Prince, you know, the late musical artist, his color was definitely purple. And, you know, one of his great, what I want to, yeah, videos, albums, CDs, whatever you call it, was, you know, Purple Rain. And he was also a Jehovah's Witness. And so there were a lot of different aspects to that. So purple is a really cool color. So if you didn't get it at first, get it now, get that link, you know, and where can you put your color? You can put it on your website, you know, your blog, your marketing materials, you know, all those paper materials that you're probably not using as much right now. It can be in your email signature, your personal possessions, you know, maybe, well, at one time when I first started out with blue, I was painting my nails blue all the time, you know, and wearing a lot of blue, and I still do that occasionally just to make the point. And then social media backgrounds, you know, your banner on LinkedIn is a perfect place for your brand color, you know, your slide decks that you use, all of those things can convey your brand. Okay, so as you're doing this, you want to think about who is in your brand community. You know, who is it that you know is in your small brand community as well as your larger brand community. So it can be, you know, your family and friends might be very close to you, you know, and your colleagues. But then as you move outwards, you know, you may have, you know, your family maybe first, but then you have friends, and then you have people who are colleagues outside of your country and your company, but out of your country too, you know, as you keep expanding your brand and your brand community. So it's really important to think about, you know, what that environment is and how far you want to spread it. So that brings us to the 3 steps. We have completed all 3 steps. The first one is unearthing your brand by a survey or really filling something out that clarifies your brand elements, and then getting feedback. Feedback is a very important element of it. Then there's the express, how you communicate your brand. And then finally, exude, which is aligning your brand with aligning all of your brand elements with everything that people see about you. Okay. So the last thing I want to talk to you, and then I'm going to put down, I'm going to stop sharing and take any questions you have. So, you know, what can you do to start building your personal brand? You know, what can you do to really assess that vision, purpose, values, you know, your strengths, your passions, you know, your goals, everything about you? How do you take that and get it out into your brand environment? Well, the first thing to do is just what we've been talking about. Write them down. You know, really write them down. You know, write down what your vision is, you know, what you see as possible or desirable in the world. Write down your purpose. That's your role in making sure that happens. For instance, you know, if any of you remember, you know, the beauty pageants that you know, where the contestants would always be asked a question, and it always seemed to be about world peace. You know, oh, I want to see world peace. Well, what exactly do you want to do for world peace? You know, because you can't, as one person, you know, create world peace. You know, what are your values? What are your operating principles? Write down your strengths, those things that are your natural talents, things that people have always said that you're good at. What are your passions? Those things that get you jumping out of bed on the weekend mornings, things that, for me, it's those things that, I'm an early riser, the things that have me jumping out of bed to do at 5 a.m. And there really are things that do that, and then what are your goals? What are the things that you want to accomplish? Because all of that influences your brand. Now, you'll remember one way that you can do it is the 360 reach. If any of you want to know more about that, just leave a comment in the comments here, or, you can always shoot me a message at Dumont, D-U-M-O-N-T, at DumontOwen.com. So Dumont at DumontOwen.com. So the second thing I'd like you to do is, once you've got those written down, to get that feedback. And if you want to try the 360 reach, there is a free version of it that you can get. You can Google it and find the free version. And it gives you a 15-day password. Now, what the free version doesn't do is it doesn't collect all of that and create, and put it in a way that you can really dig down and understand what your unifying brand elements are. It's just kind of like a long list of things. But if you want to start there, that's really good. And then get clearer on it, get that kind of feedback. So if you're going for the 15-day version, get set up and know who you want to invite and all that first, because that's all got to happen in those 15 days. Okay. And then put it out there, plan how you're going to do your communications. Where are you going to do where are you going to express things? How are you going to express them? What is your message? What is your major message? And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to go through how to determine your major messages, your supportive messages, and how to get them out there. So you're going to plan how to do your communications, and that's all those things we talked about before, infographics, you could be doing podcasts, which are very popular right now, video, infographics are really popular. So any of those things can be part of your content plan. So I want you to think about not only how you can do your content plan, which, if we go back, is going to, not everything, okay? I'm not suggesting that you do all of this. I'm suggesting that you pick the ones that you are best at, that you are most comfortable with, and do them. Okay, so when you're planning your content, one of the things I want you to do is to really quickly decide how you're going to use it this time, but repurpose it. If you had a presentation, make it into a video. If you had a blog post, make it into an article, all of those things. And I'm going to speed up because we're just about out of time. So coming up next week, we are going to be talking about 10 ways you can promote your professional or your personal and professional brand on LinkedIn. That's going to be the how-tos, 10 ways you can do it. And that's selling out already. So I'm not charging, but that's become really popular. And then finally, how to communicate your brand on LinkedIn. And that's going to be the essential components of really promoting your brand. So if you can't make them, you can register for the recording. And right now, I'm going to get out of here so that I was a little verbose today. Okay, get out of there. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to check over here and check and see. Okay, take off my glasses so that I can read this. Okay, yes, there is a specific link to the 360 Reach branding survey. So after we finish, I will definitely drop that in the comments below. And if you want to see an image of what I can't give you the LinkedIn workbook. it's copyrighted, and so I can't give that to you when you're not a client, but I can give you an idea of what it looks like and how you can use it. So I will drop that information in the comments after this. And let me see what else we have coming up. That looks like it. Okay, so man, I took the whole time today. I ran a little long, but hopefully you got something out of this. Drop your comments, give me some feedback in the comments below. Thanks, guys, and see you next time.